smooth. I believe. Uh, uh, yeah, it's just not working. Oh well.
instead of talking about
Yeah, this one.
your feelings is working hard and
I don't have
building
a
something.
controller plugged into it.
That's a better use of your time than anything that, even if this was productive, my time would have been better spent making some money and getting stronger and getting better.
All right.
But I want to be convinced that it's useful because a lot of people are talking about therapy, and people have accused me of being mentally ill quite a bit. They called me mentally ill since I was a child. I get that a lot from the internet saying Sneako needs to go to therapy. So maybe you can change that perception.
Okay. So let me just make a couple things clear. So I am a psychiatrist, but I'm not your psychiatrist.
Okay.
Is that clear? So I'm not
That's
doing
clear.
therapy with you, right?
Right.
You're not my patient.
Okay.
I'm not going to be diagnosing you.
Oh, wait. Destiny, this girl on the right is so f***ing attractive. Wait, I can't tell. Are you memeing? We know every person in this picture, right? Play it on piano. There you go. That was the song. Okay, good luck.
Or treating you for anything.
Okay.
Okay.
We're having a conversation, and if you,
Okay.
I didn't know what we were talking about, but
Oh,
if
we
you
can
want
talk,
to
we can
talk
talk about anything. I'm just like prefacing with that.
yeah, that's totally fine. So, and I mean, is that what you want to talk about?
No, I want to talk
No,
about whatever. I
whether-
want to talk about whatever you want to talk about. Can I cry?
Sure.
Okay. I don't know how this works. What are we supposed to do?
That's a great question. So, well, I mean, so was there something in particular that you were thinking about when we last connected? So I don't know if we reached out to you or you reached out to us or what exactly happened, but what was there something in particular that you had in mind?
Okay, what do you specialize in? I've seen you talk to some of my friends. You talked to Aiden for a couple hours, and you were able to dissect and figure some stuff out. And I don't know. I think this could be an interesting conversation. I don't really know.
I
don't really
completely
know.
agree. I think this is going to be a very interesting conversation.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I would. So let me tell you. So you asked, how does this work? So I think there are a couple things to consider.
Okay.
We already talked about, it's not my place to do a diagnostic assessment of you and say that you are or aren't mentally ill. That being said, sometimes I talk to people and people will have questions about particular things. Sometimes those are related to mental health. And I'm happy to answer questions about particular things or try to help people understand parts of themselves, which a lot of times people think is the same as therapy. That's not the same as therapy. It's something that understanding yourself is a part of therapy, but not all paths of self-understanding are therapy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I really enjoyed hearing your take on how therapy is not real and how people should just tough
Well,
it out. and
it's
stuff like
real,
that.
but it's a giant waste of time. Like,
so
there's some people
can I
that have
ask you
trauma.
about that?
Some people have trauma and PTSD. I think like veterans or stuff like that, or if you have the really like death, and I can see how it can be effective. But I think most people that go to therapy just like to hear themselves yap in real time. I think that they like their own problems. They like feeling like a main character, and it's just a way to vent. And it's like a pussy way of dealing with your problems. It's an easy way out. I think it's actually real. I think people give themselves a lot of credit for going to therapy. Like, it's something difficult. So I think it's really easy to sit on a couch and talk. I think what's better is moving forward and trying to, shove it down and keep going. Because even if you don't shove it down, you're still going to think about it. I think
Oh my god. It's like literally the most unhealthy mindset a person could possibly have. Jesus.
if people have this idea that you need to process your feelings on a couch next to a guy. You could process your feelings like while you work. A lot of times I'm thinking about the things that I'm dealing with while I'm working, and that could be therapeutic as well. Or prayer.
Sure.
I think prayer is much more therapeutic.
Okay, so when you say therapeutic, yeah, that's great, dude. So I'm excited about this conversation. So let me just ask you a couple of things. So when you say that you think therapy is a waste of time,
Yeah.
Yeah.
why do you think that?
Because you're basically just saying you know the answer already. I think when you walk into therapy, you already know the answer. Like instinctually, you know what you're supposed to do, and you kind of just want to talk about it to make yourself feel better.
So where do you get the idea that therapy is about? Where do you get your impression of what therapy is?
from everybody that talks about constant, like, you know, I'm from New York and you all hear all these people in Manhattan, everybody, all the libs, they talk about, like, I was just talking to my therapist. Oh, I just told my therapist. Oh, my therapist, they're calling their therapist. I need to talk to my therapist about this. People have relationship problems and like, oh, we need to go talk about it to my therapist for 5 hours and have a deep therapy. Like it's been way more normalized. And I think they prescribe a lot of problems so that you always come back. It's the same reason why the pharmaceutical companies do not want you to be healthy, so that you continue to buy their medicine. If I go to a therapist, your job is to take my money for my mental health problems. Why would you want me to get better? You don't. You want me to keep coming back and paying you. So
God, I hope Dr. K says, does that mean you should never pay anybody for personal training? All you want is for you to get shredded, and then you are what? Like, obviously they want to keep you weak forever, so they can keep like, this is true of literally every single person you would pay for help. Why would I go and why do teachers get paid to teach? If they teach everything they know, then you're not going to pay them for teaching anymore. Don't they want to keep you stupid? He'd probably agree with that, actually, because of education. But it's like such a...
So you're going to tell me, oh, come back next week and we'll unpack this and we'll unpack that. I don't need to unpack all this from childhood. I'm an adult. I'm 25. I'm going to shove it down and keep going. Why do I want to unpack this stuff?
Okay. What has happened when you've tried to unpack it?
Unpack what? Childhood?
So you said that, like, I don't want to unpack it. I want to shove it down.
Yeah,
right?
shove it down.
So like, what is so? Obviously, you'd want to do that for a reason, right? So you've had some experience that makes you prefer.
Well, I'm speaking generally. Like, people will talk about how they go into therapy and unpack all this stuff. It's better. Like, I don't understand why people are 35 reliving all that. Well, okay, I get it, but I just think that's a stupid decision.
Well, what do you get when you say you get it? Why do you think all these stupid people are in therapy?
What do you mean, get it?
Like, well, you said you get it. So I'm curious, what do you get? Why do you think all these people are in therapy if it's such a colossal waste of time and essentially a monetary leech?
Because it's easier to talk about things rather than find an action that's gonna. It's easier to talk your way out of a problem than work your way out of it. Working is hard. Pushing forward and doing things that are difficult, that's harder. Right? Like, I consider the gym therapeutic. I consider sparring. I spar quite a bit. I consider that therapeutic.
Yeah, so I think those things are therapeutic too. And I mean, I'll be the first to say that I don't think therapy is therapeutic for everyone. I think that the concerns that you have are actually, like, quite valid in terms of, I think sometimes therapy goes on way longer than it needs to. I don't really think that, in my experience, most therapists that I know are not interested in keeping people there for monetary reasons. And this very simple reason for that is there's no shortage of patients. So if you stop paying me, there's, like, literally a line out the door of, like, hundreds of people. Like, the average waiting list for a therapist is like 3 or 4 months.
Wait, you don't get it? So when you see, like, a blue-haired transgender walk in, you don't, like, rub your hands together like, oh. No, like, when you see, like, a dude that looks like a girl with kitten ears.
It's so crazy, like, the lack of self-awareness. When he's like, what about all these mentally unhealthy people that are walking around? Like, meanwhile, he's saying, like, I almost think that it's a troll, because Sneako is perfectly saying the worst possible things, to have the, like, worst possible mindset, to be the most mentally unhealthy person you could possibly be. Like, Sneako's saying those things, not like the random, you know, like, blue-haired trans person. Like, you're the one that is saying, like, literally the most unhealthy things in the world.
Like,
what makes me go like this is listening to you talk about therapy.
I was 10 minutes late today, guys, and the reason why I was late.
Jane's Addiction with Love and Rockets North American Tour. Get tickets now at livenation.com. Jane's Addiction with Love and Rockets.
At Vistaprint, we print everything to show off your brand. So you can print it like Simon's Restaurant and outfit your whole team. Or you can print it like Vegan Cafe.
I want to be honest. The reason why I was late is because I pre-watched this whole video. I am a pre-watcher, and I watched this all. I did pre-watch. I admit it. I admit it. I'm a pre-watcher. I pre-watched everything here. Yeah. I pre-watched it all, okay?
Why?
Because I think that there's like a lot of stuff to talk about that excites me.
Okay.
It's not the blue-haired transgenders, man. It's
Okay.
dudes who focus on shoving it down in action and don't care to engage with their internal environment, which is a little bit of a judgment because I don't know that that's actually the case with you. But I mean, this excites me.
Okay.
But anyway, what do you think about what I said about, with their waiting lists? 50% of therapists don't take new patients. Like, we're full up. Like, we don't need your particular money because there's like tons of people that are waiting to give us their money.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
Fair, but maybe the whole system works together. The pharmaceutical companies, the therapists, they all work on the fact that people's mental health. People are always talking about mental health. They all profit off of that. In a world where people fix their problems with prayer and with gym, that whole industry would never exist at all. So even though you might not need more patients, it's all based on the fact that everybody's diagnosing themselves in real time.
Well, so let me ask you this. So when you said fix their problems with prayer, how does that work?
Well, I just came back from Mecca, and you can see people, you call it sujood when you put your head to the floor.
He's still pretending to be Muslim. Oh God, kill me.
And you see people sometimes like sobbing. Or when you go to the masjid on Friday, I'm going to go tomorrow at 1 p.m. for Jummah. You see people like crying, and it's because they're definitely thinking of things that they're asking God for certain things to be fixed. And I consider that therapeutic. That same type of tear that they crying that they might do in therapy, instead they're connecting with God. I think all those problems, like opening up about unpacking stuff like that, you should unpack it with God. I see them and the way that they are, and I felt it too when I was in Mecca, for example, and praying next to the Kaaba. I really felt everything that was going on in my head and everything. It's not like I have to shove it down. I know everything that's there, but it becomes present when you're in prayer. You feel it. You're thinking about it. You're reminded of everybody you love. You're reminded of your past. You're reminded of your flaws. You're reminded of what you want to do better on. You're reminded of your fears and everything. And then you look to God for strength and for guidance and to keep you on the straight path.
Okay. So let me just make sure I heard you. So when you pray, so it sounds like you feel a lot of positive emotions.
And negative too. Like I wouldn't say positive too, but like everything.
I wasn't done. So you said you feel a lot of love, you feel a lot of fear, right? You think about people that you love. You also think about actions that you want to take and places that you want to go. So you have goals that you think of.
Right.
And then what? Help me understand this part about God. Where does God enter the picture?
I would prefer, I can understand why therapy is helpful for a lot of people, but I think it's better to go and talk that out, talk about your trauma and your past to God rather than to a man.
Okay. So I'm not trying to debate you, okay? So I'm not trying to like catch you or something. I'm confused. Because now you're saying you think that therapy can be helpful for other people, but prayer is superior.
Yes.
So there's some benefit to therapy because it sounds like a lot of the I'm assuming that you think a lot of the mechanisms are you talk about your positive emotions, you talk about your negative emotions, you talk about your goals. You can do that with a person, but it's better to do it with God.
Yes.
What makes it better with God?
Because I don't believe in confessing your deepest, darkest secrets and sins. I think that you're gonna.
What does he think therapy is? Confessing your deepest, darkest secrets and sins? Bro, Jesus. What are you talking about in therapy?
Embellish the truth. I went to therapy one time. I was 19 and I was talking to this woman. I was basically like head over heels about this girl. I was in college and like it was just a lot of things. I was just like going through like so I decided, all right, like everybody's doing this therapy thing, I'll pay her. And then she had giant tits. She was like really gorgeous. And so I ended up embellishing the story. And instead of like actually being honest, I was just trying to like, I was like spitting game on her like I was on a date. And I realized in that moment, like I can't fully be honest with the person because the only person you could really be honest with is God. To a person, you're always going to be, there's going to be a level of entertainment. There's going to be a level of lying. You're going to try to make sure that they're engaged. You're going to try, your ego is going to be involved. When I'm talking to God, I don't have any ego. There's nothing that I need to hide, or it's just because God is all knowing. God's the best of planners. So he's going to know. And I even noticed that a lot when I was praying in Mecca. I felt all the ego and the little blockades that I had in my head and the barriers that you have when you talk to a person, they're absent when I talk to God.
Okay.
Okay. Can I think for a second?
Yeah.
Proven or unproven?
How's this conversation so far, by the way?
Interesting.
Okay. So let me just make sure I understood. So you tried therapy once, and because your therapist had big tits, it sounds like you activated a different mode of relating to that person.
Yeah.
So you started like hitting on her.
I remember like telling the story, and I was like, even my gestures, I was like, all right, so boom. So I was at the spot, and then we really did it. And like, I'm making it like, you know, I got this girl, and I'm doing my thing. And I was just like talking like I was talking to, like, I was trying to come off cool.
Yeah. So would you say that what you did for that hour with that person was therapy?
The answer is no.
Bad therapy.
What made it bad?
My inability to grow the fuck up.
Actually, think about it. Like, I did learn some things, and I didn't need to go back anymore. So
So what is ClickUp? ClickUp is an all-in-one productivity software where you can manage everything and anything related to your work. Your documents, your
yeah. But I think the reason it was effective was because I realized that I don't need therapy. Like, it just helped me realize that this is unnecessary. So I did get to talk things out. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
I'm honestly, I'm not trying to like debate you or like, I have no interest in proving you wrong. Honestly, I have no interest in that. Okay. It's just, I'm just like kind of curious because here you are saying, okay, I tried therapy, but it sounds like, it's kind of like saying like, okay, swimming is a waste of time, and then you ask me like, why do you think it's a waste of time? Well, I went to the beach and like I never really got in the water. I just hung out on the sand, and like swimming is a waste of time, right?
Well,
so you went there,
yeah.
you did something, but I mean, you're telling me that you treated this person, you didn't do therapy, you started flexing
Yep.
for her,
Yeah.
right? That's not therapy.
Okay.
Now, and I think that that's fair, right? Because you're also saying that, okay, like the problem with therapy is that when you go, you can't be completely vulnerable or honest with another human being.
Yeah.
Because, and so some kind of script, and I would guess if I asked you like, okay, let's say that there wasn't a female therapist with big tits. Let's say the therapist was like, I don't know, a middle-aged dude. You would still be activating some kind of script with them,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so what I'm hearing you say is that the cool thing with God is that there's no scripts.
Right.
So I'm kind of curious about something. So like one of the advantages of therapy, right, is that there's another human being there. Now that's a disadvantage because now ego enters the picture. Maybe you're trying to impress them. Maybe you don't want to be vulnerable, like totally fine. But there's also an advantage, which is that there's a person there, right? So they're able to listen, they're able to respond, they're able to interact, they're able to observe. And maybe I'm making an assumption here, so I'm going to ask about this. Do you think that God does those things?
Yes.
Observes and listens
And talks back?
yeah, I do.
And in what way?
If you want something or you're looking for some sort of guidance, you can ask God and God will respond.
How?
Not in the way that a human does, but there is a response. And
How?
It's just it's kind of instinctual, and like you can. He'll tell you what you should be doing, because I think deep down you always do know the answer.
So when you say, so you're saying that God will tell you, and then
Yeah.
you're saying deep down you know the answer. So are we saying that deep down the voice that's talking to you is God? Is that you or is that God? Or am I not understanding the?
Well, I mean, we're all God's creation, so we have.
Why? I'm kind of curious, I guess, with this mentality, if you were to ask Sneeko, why bother going to any church service? Why go to a mosque? Why go to temple? Why do anything? If you can just sit at home and talk to God the whole time, why the fuck do we need any kind of teachers or scholars or biblical anything at all, right?
There's a sort of connection. I think deep down you all know, because we're all born pure, and then we start to become corrupted with sin. We start to become corrupted by what's around us, and then that's what creates the blockade. So like behind all the ego, behind the mess and the programming, you know what the truth is. But you can ask God when you drop it, and you're able to hear his guidance.
Okay, what makes it easier or harder to hear his guidance?
I think it's actually in a lot of ways it's harder. It's not easy to be vulnerable like that. It's not easy to get to that point. It took me a long time, but I do know it's possible after consistently praying.
Right. So what makes it easier or harder to hear God's voice? Because you said sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's harder. I'd agree.
Well, you have to full submission to God. And there's a lot of, like, sometimes people aren't able to do that because they're sinning, or sometimes people aren't able to do that because they're too angry, they're too emotional. It depends on what state you are in life. But if you can get to that point, then you're able to communicate with God.
Okay. So I'm hearing that, I'm with you that if you're able to get to that point, it's great, right? So you hear some kind of voice or some kind of knowing or instinct or connect with the divinity within you. Is it cool if I call it that?
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm also hearing that it's not entirely clear what the mechanism or methodology to connect with God is. So there's certain things that get in the way, maybe anger, maybe sin. But even if I'm not angry or I'm not sinning, does that guarantee I will hear God's voice?
No.
Or right? So then what else goes into it?
Fear. It could be, like, sometimes, for example, well, I'll give you Islam, for example, because I'm a Muslim. And a lot of people connect with God in different ways. And I don't think any of that is inherently wrong. But, for example, when you pray in Islam, you're supposed to make wudu before, which is cleansing yourself. You're supposed to wash your arms, wash your feet. You're supposed to wash your face, your ears, and everything. You're supposed to be in a clean state. Even when you pray in Mecca, you're supposed to be wearing a white garment that's clean. Like, there's a way to purify yourself and make sure you have true intentions. Even when you're washing yourself before prayer, you're supposed to make sure, like, the whole point is to make clear intentions that I'm going to pray, or else your prayer isn't accepted. Like, even when you get on your knees and put your head to the floor, you can't just go through the motions and expect to be able to connect with God. You have to have clear intentions to do that. So I think there's a lot of things. If you're emotional or if you don't have faith, sometimes people just don't have faith. Like, there's a lot of things that can block your faith.
Okay. So then let's say I'm having trouble, right? Let's say I don't really have faith, or I'm afraid, or I'm angry. Actually, forget about that. I realized I was slipping into a debating kind of mode, so I'll just say what I'm going to say.
Okay.
So here's where I think there's an advantage to therapy. So I completely agree with everything that you've said. Okay. I think the challenge, though, is that what you're sort of...
Sometimes when I listen, fuck, it sounds annoying to analyze, because it sounds like I'm just gonna shit on Sneeko. Sometimes when I hear Sneeko give answers to questions, sometimes I feel like he's in a mode where he feels like this is the answer that he's supposed to give, rather than, like, are you actually thinking about this particular, at least with regards to religion, or actually thinking about, like, how you're supposed to respond, or I'm sorry, are you thinking about, like, what do you actually feel? Like, what do you feel and what are you doing when you're approaching these issues? Like, how do you prepare to pray to God, right? And it's like, well, I try to approach humbly. I try to approach with honesty. Instead of that, it's like, well, when you approach God, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to kneel and you say 4 prayers in the book. And the reason why you say these prayers is because they prepare your mind for when you go to God. And the reason why when you're preparing your mind, and it's like, whoa, bro, what? I don't know what the am I in Sunday school right now? Like, it feels like he has a really hard time. And maybe it's just the way that he talks, or maybe it's like I don't want to say like a grift or whatever, but it's like, just explain, like, what are the feelings or emotions or processes, like, rather than giving me this textbook answer that you feel like you are obligated to give as I don't know.
Talking about is, like, difficulties within you. So, like, let's just take faith, for example. So not having faith is, like, really tricky, right? Because
maybe it's the dog shit religion he's pushing. Well, I mean, he's not actually religious too, right? The fact that it's a grift makes it probably a lot harder for him to connect on an emotional level as well, right? Because he's just, like, repeating the answers that he's been told that he thinks he's supposed to give. Yeah.
Faith is not something that is born of logic. It's born of faith. It's the belief in something. And if you really look at it, technically, you can't have faith. You can't have faith if you have knowledge, because knowledge is when you know something. Faith is when you believe something, right? You have faith in something. Agreed there? And I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm laying out how my understanding of things.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So I think the big advantage of therapy is that you've got, like, another human being. So if you have other problems, right? So, like, if you have, let's say, fear or anger or a lack of faith, that there's actually, like, another human being there to help you with those barriers.
Right. But humans are inherently flawed, and we're never going to be perfect. So
Absolutely.
a therapist's advice is always going to be inferior to God's, because God's all-knowing and God is perfect and God's more intelligent than us. I don't think that there's any human that's better than me or smarter or that knows anything that I don't know, because we're all created equal. So, I mean, it's good to kind of voice those things. And that's why that therapy session that I had with that woman with the giant breasts was effective, because I realized something. She didn't tell me anything. It was just me talking that made me realize that this is useless and I don't need this. I think when you talk to something,
hold on a second. So once again, I don't disagree with any of your premises. I come to a different conclusion.
My power to achieve any day, any surface. My other pride and the cuddles round the clock. Kaza pop-up desk.
Give your projects a friendly jolt in Slack. Type it out, talk it out, knock it out. Work gets done in Slack.
So you kind of said, I'm with you that human beings are flawed, right? And so, but just because a human being is flawed doesn't mean that a human being can't help another human being.
True. Yeah, I'm not saying it's completely useless. I'm just saying that
it's mostly useless.
Okay.
And I think people like the echo chamber and have a certain level of narcissism. I think if you...
Even in an Islamic context, seeking knowledge is a requirement in Islam, and this blind faith is very much looked down upon. Yeah, I want to be really careful because I don't want to speak much to Islam. I can't. I can speak from a Christian perspective. And given that we're all like members of the book or whatever, I feel like there's probably going to be a lot of similarities, but I don't want to say for sure, right? But it reminds me of I'm pretty sure I've told this joke on stream before, that like a man is, a huge flood has overtaken a city, and a man is sitting in his house, and a few people come by in a car, and they're like, hey, we're leaving the city, let's go. And the guy's like, no, God is going to protect me, nothing will happen. And then the floodwaters begin to rise. The guy moves up to the second floor. He's sitting in his bedroom. A couple in a boat comes by and like, hey, hop in, we're leaving the city, there's floodwaters. And the man is like, no, God is going to protect me. And then eventually the man climbs into his attic and he's on the roof. So the floodwaters like are overtaking his entire house. And then a helicopter comes by and the guy is like, hey, hop in the helicopter or you're going to drown and die. And the guy's like, no, I have strong faith in God, he's going to protect me. And then eventually the floodwaters rise, the guy drowns, he's at the gates with St. Peter. And, finally he gets in and he talks to God and he's like, God, I prayed to you, I had strong faith in you, why didn't you help me? And then God was like, what are you talking about? I sent a car, a boat, and a helicopter and you didn't get in, dumb fuck. And then he smacks the guy upside the face, bends him over, and he reams him with his 32-inch holy dick. But yeah, this idea that like you do nothing and God does everything, like you're supposed to be proactive in your life and you're supposed to do things to like seek knowledge and wisdom and the application of prayer and rituals. And I just, at least in a Christian setting, or at least in a Catholic setting, I would say, I could never imagine like a priest or a Jesuit or a preacher or any type of holy person say like, oh yes, my son, don't seek wisdom from any other area in your life. Just keep praying to God and that's all you need to do and he'll tell you everything. Like that's just such a bizarre statement. I would be surprised because I feel like in Islam, I feel like you have a lot of like holy scholars and everything as well. I'd be surprised if it was much different in Islam. I seriously doubt they would say what do they call them? Imam, or I don't know what the f- your leaders are called. But I seriously doubt you would go into a mosque and they'd be like, oh yes, child, like just pray to Allah, pray to God and he'll tell you everything. Don't seek wisdom anywhere else. Like that just seems so wild. I don't know. But who knows?
Keep going back to therapy like that long without any solution. You just kind of like hearing yourself talk.
Well, I mean, when you say that long without any kind of solution, like what's your understanding of like the course and outcomes around therapy?
There's a lot of people that I know, I'm sure you know these people too, they have their therapist on speed dial and they talk about their therapist like their friend.
Oh, cute. Okay. Sorry. Here's a fun story I've been thinking about recently. This is from aliabdal.com. One day, the Prophet Muhammad noticed a Bedouin leaving his camel unattended without tying it. He asked the Bedouin, "Is it Bedouin or Bedouin? Bedouin? Why don't you tie your camel?" The Bedouin answered, "I place my trust in God." The Prophet said, "Trust in God, but tie your camel." Yeah. So yeah, in Islam, it's probably the same thing, right?
Friends. You know,
I don't think that's the majority of people. I think that is a tiny fraction of people.
Okay.
I would guess less than 5%. So I know that, for example, like part of our training as therapists is that we set very clear boundaries. We're not your friend. So you're not supposed to be texting us all the time. So when a patient texts or calls me at like 8 p.m., I'll answer because they don't usually do that. And then I'll ask them, hey, can this wait until our appointment? Or do you really need to talk to me now? Or do you need to go to the emergency room? Or like, what's going on? So I don't think that because a lot of what I'm really confused about is that I think a lot of your understanding of therapy is based on, I'm not quite sure what you've heard, I guess.
I guess my understanding is like it's a lot of liberals who prioritize feelings over facts. The people that
I feel so bad for people whose brains get so heavily politicized that they like can't evaluate the world. You're like, bro, what's your favorite type of ice cream? Do you like mint chocolate chip? It's like, ice cream, well, ever since the liberals started, blah, like, did you ever watch Game of Thrones? Well, I heard that George R. Martin, I heard that he's a feminist, so no, and it's like, your brain is like, Sneeko is like the ultimate product of what I talked about, I think like a year or two ago, where it feels like everything today is so politicized, like every single thing is fucking politicized. You can't have a normal conversation about anything without people like invoking politics. I was like, oh my God. Actual bot behavior, yeah.
Yeah, the people that usually go to therapy, I don't think that they're based in reality. I think that they like trivializing their lives, and they're just not that interesting, and they want to make it more interesting by making up problems and unpacking everything.
Where does that? Where do you get that?
Any of this, yeah.
Right. So like for example, you said that they're like interested in feelings instead of facts. So like, where do you get that impression?
Ben Shapiro.
I'm confused by that.
For example,
because you're drawing a lot of conclusive statements. And I'm curious.
They have something called like gender affirming care. I remember having this in school where we had like social workers and therapists that were designed there, and there were rooms for safe places where there was like a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist, and they would just talk about their feelings, and then it was always, they had like rainbow stickers on the front. And all these people that ended up becoming transgender or becoming gender fluid, they were always constantly in therapy. Or like, I went to school with a bunch of depressed kids, kids who thought they were depressed. All these kids were on SSRIs. They were all, like I said, they were anxious. They were constantly popping pills. And they all had the same political ideology. It was sort of like centered around the fact that weakness is okay. They didn't see strength as a virtue. They saw weakness as something to lean into.
How do you know that what they saw? That I'm confused. Like, how do you know what they see?
I mean, by talking to them. I guess I can't. I don't. But talking to them all the time. To see, like, the people that were constantly going to therapy in my school were the gender fluid people. The people that didn't believe in it, and the people that were like on a different political idea, like they were the ones playing sports, working out constantly, and who were like trying to build something.
Okay, so I'm sort of seeing like there's that just the way that you're viewing things is that there's a lot of like correlations.
Yeah.
So going to therapy is correlated with weakness.
With
is
liberalism
correlated
and weakness,
with a
Liberalism
political
and weakness.
ideology is correlated
Both of those
with
are very
not
important.
exercising is correlated with not doing things.
Yep. Inaction.
Let me just think about
that.
Why are we having this conversation?
Because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my way of thinking is incorrect. I think it's pretty polarizing. When I talk about this, it upsets a lot of people. So maybe my worldview was wrong, and maybe yours is right, and maybe therapy is necessary. Maybe I need it.
What do you think?
I believe. The reason I believe what I believe is because I think I'm right.
Okay. Yeah.
statement.
So that's what's so interesting. So here's my experience of this conversation. So you say things in ways that are very polemic. So like polar.
Yes.
So you say things in a way that invites me to argue with you
Right.
and try to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
Like just the statements that you make. And I can see why people are like inflamed by that. And if I don't try really hard to catch myself, then I will start arguing with you.
Right.
Why are you smiling right now?
Because you're right. Because you're completely right. That's just my way. People tell me that quite a bit. I have like a argumentative style of speaking.
That's not the question that I asked. I asked, why are you smiling?
I'm smiling because you're right.
So what is the correlation with me being right and you smiling?
That in 20 minutes you picked up on what my friends and family have been saying for years.
Okay. And when I pick up on something that your friends and family have been saying for years, so that's just like a fact, right? Like I picked up on it.
Yes.
But you have a reaction to that, which
Yeah.
is that you're smiling.
Right.
So that reaction comes with an emotion.
Yes.
That's what the reaction is.
Yes.
What's the emotion?
The emotion. I think I get like a dopamine hit from. I like.
Dopamine's not an emotion.
What's up?
Dopamine's not an emotion. Right? What's the emotion?
Laughter.
Laughter's an. I'm not trying to make you sound stupid here, but laughter's not an action. So let's think about it. What's the emotion?
Not an emotion.
Joy?
Laughter's the expression. Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
There we go.
So, like, how do you understand that? Like, here I am noticing something about you, and your reaction is joy.
Oh, because like that was such a cute. Oh, that was so cute. How that all wrapped. I don't know if he's gonna go this way. I might be making an assumption, right? But at the end of the day, an emotion is elicited from Sneeko, right? Not the dopamine, not the wrecking, blah blah blah. Like joy, because it was a human person, not God. It was a human person in a conversation that recognized something, and it elicited a response from Sneeko. I think that's where he's going with this, or I hope that's where he's going, because that wraps the whole conversation is like wrapped in a super neat bow from here on out to establish that point. Yeah.
Okay. I like connecting with people.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, with people. Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Is this weakness? Is what we're doing weakness?
Nope.
No. But
Is it
also,
strength?
It's a strength. No, it's just a conversation. Like this is similar to most. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So it's neither weakness or strength. It's
Yeah.
just we're connecting.
Yeah.
Feels good to connect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it make us weak to connect?
No.
Does it make us strong to connect?
Neither. Well, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
Whoa. How? What's so?
Because you're stronger in groups. So if I connect with somebody and then we go forward, there's two of us instead of one.
Damn.
So there's value to connection.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that like we're not doing therapy, but I think that we just experienced what I would call one of the benefits of therapy, which
Yeah, having a human and not God. Yeah, nice, neat, good landing.
is to be seen. So I know you're putting on an act, and yet it feels good to like see through it, right? Like I kind of saw through it, and that feels good. I'm not, and this is the other thing is I'm not judging you for it. I'm not saying like, hey bro, you're an asshole for doing this. Why do you do this? I don't get angry with you. I imagine a lot of people get angry with you.
Yeah, that's true.
And that must be tough for you.
Or maybe we can talk about.
Let me rephrase.
I'll let you cook. I'll let you cook.
It used to be tough for you, but now you're better at it. Now you're stronger. Now you know how to pray and you have faith in God. So it's no longer a problem that people are angry with you, right?
No.
The critical misspeak. I'm sorry, I'm done.
No, meaning what?
Also, the kind of reason I laugh, I kind of like, I like making people react. I like even if it's laughter, I have the same sort of reaction to when people get upset. I like being able to say stuff and then people go, huh? Or laugh, or like, I like having an effect on people.
Yeah.
So like when I say like a racial slur and then people, huh? Like that's really fun for me.
How do you understand? So first of all, is that common for many people?
I don't think it's as common as, no, I don't think it's that common.
Yeah, I'd agree. Maybe everyone likes it a little bit.
A little,
but
I
not
like
as
it
much as
more
you.
than most people, yeah.
Yeah, how
I
do you
think so.
understand that?
I don't know, it's just always been that way. It's always been that way.
Are you interested in understanding it?
Yes.
Okay, so what? What's that expression?
Because now it's like I'm thinking you're gonna like dig into my past to figure out like why that is.
I don't even know the answer.
I also, Sneeko is debating, right? And Dr. K is therapizing. I don't want to say he's doing therapy, but like something akin to it. Something that I think is really good. If you want to debate everybody in your life, you could do that. That's fine. But when you are talking to a therapist or somebody that's trying to help you, I think it's really important to just like have an honest conversation and don't ever try to head the therapist off. Like, don't try to be thinking like, fuck, they're asking me this because if I say this, he's gonna fucking say this. And if I say this, then he's gonna fucking do that, right? Don't try to like head off your therapist, right? That's just like, yeah, don't just like open up, think, let them guide the conversation, yeah.
Answer. It's just,
What's the answer?
I'm not going to tell you yet.
Huh?
I'm not going to. We don't need to dig into your past. We don't need to. We can do that if you want to, but we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna figure it out together, right? Because connected, ape strong together.
Right. Yes.
Does that
Stronger
work?
together. Yes. Okay.
Okay, so let's think through it. Right. So and see, even the way that I'm talking to you is changing. So what have you noticed that I'm changing?
Yeah, we have more defense mechanisms, and now they're dropping.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, so you know what I'm doing to drop your defense mechanisms?
You're saying things to make me feel welcomed and like you're understanding.
Yeah, and
stuff.
what am I saying to you to make you feel welcome?
It's everything. It's,
Oh my God, Sneeko, you're so great.
No,
I
no,
love
no.
you. Like,
I'm not, right?
No.
What I'm actually doing is I know the answer, you don't, and I'm not going to tell you, nya, 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 nya.
right.
And somehow, like, you feel welcome with that. Like, let's play, like, we're playing a game. You feel it?
Well, because everybody likes talking about themselves, and that you told me that you're going to talk more about me in the future, and that's like everyone's favorite topic.
Is it your favorite topic?
No.
No, yeah, I don't think it's everyone's favorite topic.
Maybe
That
I
would
just
make us
lied. I don't know.
narcissistic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No, but I think it's like, I think human beings like to understand themselves. I don't think that's unusual.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me ask you. So when you try to get a rise out of people, right? It can be negative. It can be positive.
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask you. So how does it feel to not? So when you get a rise from someone, I'm going to say that means that I'm relating to you. I'm noticing you. I'm acknowledging you. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So if you don't get a rise out of people, how do you feel?
Inadequate.
Yeah,
And
right?
getting a rise doesn't just have to mean
Damn,
anger.
son, you just went, yeah, I know. But inadequate? Yeah, I'm
Inadequate, yeah,
surprised
yeah,
you
yeah.
got there that fast.
Like you remember, like I remember standing in circles at school and stuff like that, and like there's like a group of people talking, and then you say a joke and then nobody reacts, or like you just say something and like that, like am I here? Like did anybody just hear what I said? Or, like am I invisible? And then someone repeats the joke louder, and then they all get a laugh. What the? Yeah, that shit sucks.
Yeah, right? So you feel invisible unless you get noticed. And so like,
You sure?
right, your words. I mean, I use the word notice, but you use the word invisible.
Yeah.
So now let's like kind of think about it, right? So now like there's a guy who goes out of his way because fucking A, we're gonna notice you, Sneeko. Right? You're gonna make sure of that.
Right.
Right? And you kind of come out charging, and we'll see if you flip back into that mode later.
Okay.
But we'll see what your tolerance of vulnerability is.
Yes.
Maybe.
Okay, wait, real quick. Am I missing a
Oh, dude.
I feel like my apartment is gonna collapse. Is there a way to pull stuff out of my bastion? Like if I've got all these resources up here, is there a way to like ferry them out and like deliver them to other places or no?
But I think you're okay with this because I think you like to be seen. I think you're actually more okay with being vulnerable than you give yourself credit for.
Right.
believe
I think
so.
the biggest issue and what I noticed in Mecca was that, yes, that's true, but doing it for the right reasons. Like, I think it's okay to say a racial slur and, you know, if someone gets upset because my intentions are pure. It's just like, it's funny to me and it's funny to people who get it. But also the fact that if I do have eyes, that I'm putting out the right message and that I'm influencing in the right way. That it's not just like clamoring symbols like a loud monkey, or getting, you know, there's some people that just turn it into a giant clown show, that I'm doing something right. And that every time I speak that it's, you know, there is something positive coming out of it.
Sure. So it sounds like is this the first time you went to Mecca?
Yes. Just came back.
And it sounds like it was quite a powerful experience for you.
It was the most powerful. I haven't even fully talked about it yet. Yeah, it was like one of the most, it was the best experience of my life.
Yeah, so
He
like
has to say that, of
now
course.
I can see that you're more centered, right? And now you're sort of saying like, okay, like if my intentions are pure and like all this other stuff, which is cool, but like you were clowning long before that, right? You were getting rises out of people long before you went to Mecca and understood everything that you've understood now.
Yeah, since I was like 4 years old, I used to like tell knock jock jokes. Like there's, I would, yeah, always. I was always like making stand-up comedy type jokes since I was like 3.
Yeah.
Like
Can I ask you about what growing up was like for you? That's like, oh my God, like.
Growing up was good. Growing up was, you know, I grew up in around Connecticut and New York, New Haven, you know, a pretty mixed, diverse, 2-parent household, really good parents, and feel
Siblings?
pretty, yeah, siblings, older sister, younger brother.
And what will you say you feel pretty?
I'm very grateful that I had really good parents, and I still do. And
What made your parents really good?
They sacrificed a lot in order to raise us properly, and they put the 100% into parenting, and I think that's pretty.
Well, let me grab something. Hold on. Do we know how long Bad Bunny's banned for? Right now it's indefinitely, so.
Pretty rare. I don't. My parents are still together. Like it's very rare that I meet people that still have parents that are together. I love my parents.
And when you say they sacrificed a lot, can you share a little bit about that? Do you feel comfortable?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they chose to, you know, they didn't go out and party ever. You know, they don't really have that many friends. They didn't really have like that much of a social life or a life outside of raising their children. Like that was their number one priority. Like they weren't selfish whatsoever.
Okay. And what was school like for you?
School
You were the
was
class clown?
Was that?
You were the class clown?
Yeah, later on, I wasn't as funny earlier, but then I did get funny, and then I was a class clown. Like I had ups and downs. Like I was like 4th, 5th grade. I like tried to be the class clown more than I was. It was cringe. But then like I